learned this in your first week of macroeconomics, but the equation is MV equals PQ. M is your money supply. V is the velocity. Velocity is just the turnover of money. So, I go to the bar tonight and I leave a tip, and the bartender takes the tip and takes a taxi home, and the taxi driver takes the fare and puts gasoline in his car. That dollar has velocity of 3 because $1 supported $3 of goods and services, the tip, the taxi, and the gasoline. But if I stay home and don't spend any money, my money has velocity of 0. So, and I remind people, $3 trillion times 0 is 0. In other words, if you don't have velocity, you don't have an economy. So basically, money supply, how much money is there, times velocity, how quickly is it turning over, equals the nominal GDP, the gross dollar value of all the goods and services in the economy. And nominal GDP has 2 parts. Q is the real part, and P is the price index, so inflation or deflation. But this is psychological. They have to basically lie to you. They have to engage in propaganda to bend the velocity curve to make you want to spend more money than you're actually doing right now so that they can get the nominal growth they need to pay off the debt. So how do you bend the velocity curve? What is the policy here? And as I mentioned, it's an exercise in propaganda. 2 ways to do it, 2 tools, that is. The first is negative real rates. Negative real rates is when inflation is higher than the nominal rate. That's good because if you're a borrower in that world, you actually pay the bank back in cheaper dollars. That's better than 0 interest. That's the bank paying you to be a borrower. So ideally, the Fed would say, we'll have 2% on the 10-year note and 3% inflation, negative real rates of 1%. That's a very powerful inducement to go out and borrow. The other thing they want to do is deliver an inflationary shock. If I promise you 2% and I deliver 2%, there's no change in behavior. I've exactly met your expectations, so there's no reason for you to change your behavior. What I have to do is lie to you. I have to tell you 2% and deliver 3%. That's a shock. Now you're like, oh, gee, inflation's out of control. Better go buy a house, buy a car, buy a refrigerator, do whatever. So that changes behavior. So 3% inflation with 2% or 2.5% on the 10-year note is a negative interest rate, which is a powerful inducement to borrow. And it's also an inflation shock, which is a powerful inducement to spend. And the idea of 3% inflation is to get the borrowing and the lending and spending machine going again, try to get nominal GDP back to trend, make it self-sustaining, withdraw policy, substitute real GDP for nominal GDP, get real GDP back to trend, and we all live happily ever after. This is